Disney List Time is here, where we list out some of our favorite and least favorite of an experience, attraction, and beyond. And today's Disney List is all about what we love most about Main Street, USA at Disneyland Park. It is the heart of Disneyland, and certainly something that I know a lot of people hold close to their sentiments when they think about Disneyland, because it is that first thing that you see, it is that first thing that you experience on the way in. Here with me, Sabina Graves, Stephanie Sandmeier, producer Curt, and out in Walt Disney World, Mr. Gared Hassel. We'll start here. Sabina, what are some of the things you love most about Main Street USA at Disneyland?
Oh my gosh, the food.
Yeah.
Definitely. I'm a big Jolly Holiday fan. They have a lot of gluten-free options.
Mm-hmm.
I'll go there. And I just like sitting as close as possible to the Coke Corner piano, listening to the music. It's honestly some of my favorite Disney area music as well. Very relaxing. I find myself listening to it at home, either on YouTube or on Spotify. Little fact, their version of Married Life from Up actually pulls out the really sad part. So if you go on Spotify, you can find the Main Street version of Married Life, and it's just the happy sections of that without the really sad downturn.
You don't want to bring anybody down in Main Street. It's too soon.
It's too like no one has recovered from that first 9 minutes of Up.
Exactly.
Also, it's a great path to get through the parades, you go through the stores. Definitely some of my favorite things.
Yeah, they've also added the alleyways now back behind the stores, and definitely opened that up a couple of years ago, and that's really been helpful when it comes to the congestion on Main Street. Now, a lot of people don't know that, Magic Kingdom at Walt Disney World, their Main Street is dramatically different than Main Street in Disneyland. Now, the theme and overall feel is very similar, but in terms of the scale is much larger. So it feels kind of like a real city, it feels like a real town. And then there are many different options in terms of stores, a lot of different options in terms of restaurants, even character meet and greets and stuff like that. They have indoor space dedicated to that. Their Main Street there is much bigger overall.
They have a barber shop.
They do.
You can actually get your haircut in.
Right.
Yeah.
Pretty nuts.
Baby's first haircut at Disney World is a thing.
And then babies get their first ears too.
Oh my God, that's so magical.
Yeah, it's pretty darn special. Yeah, but Main Street here at Disneyland is huggable. It's very intimate, right? It's very small.
Quaint.
It is quaint, but you feel like you can wrap your arms around our Main Street, whereas you go out to Walt Disney World and you don't really feel like you can wrap your arms around anything out there. It's too big. But Stephanie, when it comes to our Main Street USA, what do you love?
Oh my gosh. I love the music that's always playing. I love the fact that there's so much history in Main Street that no matter how many times, no matter how many times you go in, you remember something from the history when you read into it. And my favorite thing is the smell in front of the candy shop. That artificial smell of deliciousness.
That changes throughout the year depending on the season, yeah.
Yes, that. And then, those little window panels that have the little character transitions. They're really fun. Yeah. They're so cute. Yeah. They're so cute and so fun.
It is such a special place. And it was very strange, growing up as a child going to Disneyland. You would think that as a kid, your favorite land or your favorite place to be would be where your favorite rides are. There isn't a whole lot in terms of rides going on Main Street, and I loved Main Street as a child. I clearly had been an old soul my whole life, and so I loved Main Street for that very reason. Because it was like a place where I felt at home. So I'm like, maybe I lived here in my past life. Maybe I lived on a street like this or something. Maybe I lived in this time.
Maybe because we don't grow up in LA with having parades coming down the street with marching bands and the experience we have of that here is at Disneyland.
It feels like something very familiar, to me. And there's just, and I know it was designed to make it seem like it was familiar to everybody, but I loved it. As a child, I love it now. It's one of my absolute favorite places to be. There's a couple of spots in Town Square that I like to go sit at, just people watch, because you feel like you're completely immersed, like you're in a different time, like you're in a place that's full of cheer, and goodnesses in the world. I love that. But we're going to jump out to Walt Disney World, and our Walt Disney World reporter Gared Hassel is standing by to tell us what he loves about our Main Street on his Main Street.
Yeah, so I am here at the Walt Disney World train station here on Main Street, USA, and while this Main Street is very nice, I will always give all my love to Disneyland Main Street just because, like, it's where I've gone since I was a child, and probably so I've got two favorite things about it. The first thing is when Disney was designing this, they wanted it to feel like a real town, and they wanted it to feel bigger than it actually was. And they do this through a math and engineering concept called forced perspective. That is where the first floor is the normal size, and then as you go taller and taller, you get shorter in the size, making it feel like it's bigger. It doesn't sound like it would work, but it actually does. So you can't really see that well. But for example, so right there, first floor is like normal size, then it gets a little smaller, and then smaller for that top floor right there. But it feels much larger, and that is what they do with the castle as well. I love forced perspective, and at Disneyland, you walk down there, and it feels like the castle's right there. But as you're leaving, because of the way the buildings are placed, it looks much longer, and that's also used for consumers to be like, oh, it's much longer. Why don't we shop around? Shop around. It'll kill the time as we make our way through there, and it's ingenious. It truly is. And if you haven't ever had a chance, check out the Imagineering story on Disney Plus because it tells the story of how Walt created this amazing place that is represented Marceline, Missouri, where Walt grew up. And my second favorite thing has to be there's a certain time of day where Main Street is perfect. And it's not in the morning, it's not at night, it's at the twilight hour where the sun is beginning to set and the lights are on. And it's just this serene moment where I feel completely at peace, where everything in the world is good because like Main Street's calming down. They're getting ready for the nighttime activities. People are slowly moving in. Lights are on. I don't know what it is. I don't know if any of you have ever experienced that. But for me, when the sun's beginning to set and the lights are on, you just feel like you're in an older world where time goes a little bit slower and it's completely peaceful. Here, you're trying to push your way out and get out of here. Here, this Main Street, you try and get in and out. You don't really stick around. But at Disneyland, it's like what you said, Wade. You can hang out there for a while, have a good time. But yeah, if you haven't done that, folks, Twilight Hour at Disneyland on Main Street, USA. The lights are on. It's fantastic. It's perfect. And it just feels like home. But I love Main Street, USA. And the very close similar one is the one in Disneyland Paris, where they are very similar, but slight differences that have a little bit of a European influence on it. But yeah, that's what I have to say. But yeah, it is a wonderful place to live if you could live there.
Yeah, want to move into an apartment on Main Street. That's for sure.
That was very
Walt's
poetic,
apartment,
Gared.
Yeah. Beautiful.
That's what he's known for. Yeah. A lot of people don't know that Gared was a poet way back when.
Oh,
So.
I didn't know you were going to cut to me. I was trying to act out that I'm a poet. I have many soliloquies and many sonnets. O Main Street, wherefore art thou? But a simple sparkle in the eye. I don't know, something deep like that.
Wow, he hasn't had time to really think about it, but yes, no, you get the picture there. Producer Curt, when it comes to your favorite things about Main Street, what do you love?
So obviously I'm more of the techie kind of guy. I like the penny arcade section. You have all those old school movies and everything, and they only cost a penny. You have Esmeralda telling people's fortunes out front, and you get a little card. Mm-hmm. And then in the back, you have that orchestrion roll that plays, I think, every so often. It's just really amazing that they've refurbished. It just looks so cool and just so awesome. I like that aspect of it, that you get a little bit of everything in Main Street. Mm-hmm. You have a little bit of stores everywhere, and it's just that gateway right into Disneyland. It starts your day. It's just a great feeling to have.
Do you prefer a time of day on Main Street over another?
I like it right after the fireworks, where everything's winding down. Mm-hmm. All the lights are on. You can see everything, and it's just that all right, we can calm down. The day's done. Let's just go into a shop. Let's explore. Let's have a little fun and not have to worry about anything. The day's done. let's enjoy ourselves.
Yeah, well, that is a great time of day. You're absolutely right. And I would say that for me, one of the things that I always wanted as a child was to, much like Gared said, I want to live on Main Street. Like I was like, oh man, you can just imagine, moving into a place like this and, having one of those top floor places to live and being able to look down, kind of like Walt Disney did with his apartment. He really did build himself a place to live on Main Street because it meant so much to him. If you are not familiar with that, Walt Disney does still have an apartment above the firehouse in Town Square, where a number of years ago, the fire pole that used to go from his apartment down into the firehouse, it got filled in, the hole did, because too many people were trying to shimmy up it to go see his apartment.
Of course.
Yeah, but it is a place that, to this day, they still leave the light on in the window to signify that Walt is around, because when he would go to visit the parks, it was often said that he would turn the light on to indicate that he was in the park, so that anybody that worked there could see it and go, oh, hey, yeah, Walt's here. So they never turned it off. After he passed away, they sort of made that in honor of him. They keep that on at all times. But I think one of the things that I always really wanted was to live there myself. And I remember thinking, how cool would it be, to claim real estate on Main Street? A number of years ago, early on in my leadership career at Disney, my office was alongside, I had a great view of Tomorrowland, but it was on the end of Main Street. And it was on the back side of the Plaza Inn restaurant. And I had these great windows, and I sat right next to it. I had a window view, this great window view of the Astro Orbiter, and to make your rocket ship fly higher. And I would hear that every, 2 to 3 minutes. But such a moment to be able to say, like, oh, I basically live here now. It's such an impactful moment to realize that, that was a place I could call home. And then on top of that, I think the other thing, so Walt's apartment is very special, and I would consider that to be like my number one. I look at it, I nod to it every time I'm there, because you still feel them in that park. But I would say that the other thing that I really love about Main Street is the horse-drawn streetcar. I adore the horse-drawn streetcar that picks you up in Town Square, takes you down to the castle, drops you off, or you can pick it up at the castle and it'll take you up to Town Square.
Yeah. Oh, I love the horses.
Sweet little horsies. Yeah, no, it's such a great experience, such an old town feel, and really does put you in that frame of mind that you're in this real live breathing community. I did it in this week's Disneyland update, as a matter of fact, over on YouTube, where I just thought, I don't think a lot of people ever get to just do this, because those horses and the streetcars and everything, they're only out for a couple hours a day.
Yeah.
They go away real quick. So I filmed it from the perspective of somebody sitting in the front seat, and we went from the castle all the way up to Town Square. It's just such a special feeling.
Yeah.
Yep.
I just love, it's so dated. Main Street is so dated to back in, when Walt lived in Missouri. It's just magical to be able to, feel like you're back in that time, even though you're surrounded by a bunch of modern people and all the parades and the music. It's just the vibe.
It still manages to feel so timeless.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's not so much of the visual of your surrounding, but it's more of the feel and the energy. That sounds super weird coming from me, but it's the vibe and the energy of Main Street that just makes it magical.
They nail it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and one of the things that I also like to share with people is Main Street was designed to be that warm hug on the way in. To make you feel like you've been transported someplace timeless, but someplace period specific. If that makes any sense. But you'll notice that even the curbs on Main Street, they're rounded, they're not pointed. I mean, there's all these subtle things that are done on Main Street to make you feel a certain way, because curbs that are pointed are threatening. Curbs that are rounded are comforting. And so there's all these cues, all these little things about Main Street USA that were done specifically by Walt, right? Like he wanted these things done to make you feel like you've been transported somewhere else entirely. Yeah. So special. And if you guys were to wrap things up and say what time of day you love the best on Main Street USA, what would you say that is?
Now that he mentioned it, I would be on the same page, like Twilight.
Yeah.
Twilight's a good time. Because when he was describing it, I just remember it visually, and I'm like, that is it's almost like time completely stops.
Yeah.
And you can just really take it all in. Oh, it's just, He's got it. Gared's
He
got
knows,
it.
yeah.
It's magical. It's a magical time.
He understands. Yep, he's a smart guy. He knows.
I think for me, it would definitely be after the park closes, that hour you have where Main Street's still open.
Yeah.
Oftentimes, I'll go shop and like poke around, but some of the most magical things I've experienced as far as just having quieter moments in the park have happened during that hour. I remember when the Christmas tree went up this past winter, and it was just completely empty around the tree, and I just sat next to the tree. It was illuminated. I think it was the first night they like actually just lit it up. And I just sat there and I listened to the music, and I just enjoyed it. And I was like, in a week or so, it's not going to be so empty. So I'm just going to take this moment in and just sit and like, I was looking over at Walt's apartment, and it was magical. Yeah.
It sure is. Well, we'll give Gared the last word on this. Gared, what do you want to say?
Okay, so now that I'm here in the train station, the train station at Disneyland is something else, because like this one is majestic, but the one at Disneyland, it's smaller, it's lopsided, or where like you have one tower on the side rather than one in the middle here. Mm-hmm. And for some reason, like when you do the Grand Circle tour from Main Street to Main Street, and you get off and then you walk into it from the train station, it's just like you've returned home from a long journey, like Walt did when he took a suitcase and a dream out to Los Angeles, and you just step down those steps and you're like, I'm home. And I'm getting goosebumps right now just talking about it. But the train station is like, Walt loved trains, and so you can begin and end your journey just like Walt did in his hometown. I just think that's something special. But yeah, twilight hour while riding the train, perfect time. But that's all I'm going to add.
Well, that is a great way to wrap it up. And that, my friends, is the Disney list for this week.
To all who come to this happy place, welcome.